Hi, friends. Welcome to Melanated Perspectives with your hosts, Renita and Tara. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you come back often and add us to your weekly rotation.
Hey, friends. Welcome back. Today we are going to have a conversation about success.
What?
Yeah, we are. And so I wanted to start with a quote that I found this afternoon by Winston Churchill. And it says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." So when we talk about success today, I want you to think about, how you measure your success. And we're going to talk a little bit about ours. Go ahead.
So I looked up a definition of success, and it says, degree or measure of succeeding, favorable or desired outcome, also the attainment of wealth, favor, or eminence, and then lastly, one that succeeds.
We did not
Well,
that.
no, we did not. So, Tara, what is your personal definition of success, my friend?
Today, it is a lot different than it was maybe this time last year.
Okay. This is juicy.
It's definitely not juicy. So I think I'm going to start with a story.
Okay.
And so about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, I had applied for a job a leadership role that I really, really wanted. I thought that I was qualified for it. Not that I'm not, but, and I didn't get it. And so, like, this whole idea of success in my mind was like all fluster, all askew, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, for a long time, it's been like this narrow thought of career, title, money,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was just like the sole focus. Yeah, so I think it's changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I am. What about you?
Wait, hold on, because
Oh.
I have some follow-up questions. We did not, so if you don't have an answer, that's okay. We go on here and sometimes, so do you know where that idea of success associated with money, title, like, do you know where that stems from for you, like, or not? And if you don't, or I did catch her off guard because
she did.
It just listening to you, I just wondered. I'm always trying to get the root of something.
You're always trying to get a root cause. No, I don't know if I know the root cause. I do know that I have always been, like a checker. Like, there's this step to this step to this step. You graduate from high school.
Okay.
You go to college. You move out. You find your own house.
Okay.
So I would say I'm goal oriented, and
Mm-hmm.
all of those things were moving toward, like, you get your master's, you get a job, then you get a better job,
Okay.
and then you get a better job, and then your numbers just keep going up.
Okay.
And I'm not sure where it came from, but I just think somewhere in the core of me,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like this goal-driven kind of personality.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely know that about you, but I like to tap in, because for folks who don't know, before I answer, do we want me to answer that question, or do you want to explain the change in success? How do we want to do that?
Say it differently?
Because my second question for you was, because you talked about a change, right? This was the idea of success. Then you kind of looked at it a little differently. Do you want to address that now, of where you think that shift kind of came from? Because you still care about the first piece of success, right?
Yeah.
And so, pandemic-wise, pandemic hit, and, is that really where you felt like something looked a little different, struck a different chord?
I hear you. Well, yeah. So, there was the idea of, like, my mortality, the mortality of the people that I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time and energy in the work piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I only worked 8 hours, but when I'm at home, I'm still thinking, what about this next contract? Like, what about this next negotiation? Or even when I was on travel, like way back, pre-pandemic, like there were times that I was, I say taken away from home, but I wasn't at home. And like my kid suffered from that, like it was tough for him to like change his routine. So it just made me think about like the amount of time you really have on the planet. And my kid is still young, and just making sure that he gets the best parts of me and not like I almost said half-ass, but just
what, like tapped out mom?
Yeah. So that was the change for me.
Okay.
Now,
well,
we're a little different.
We are.
So I want to hear your thoughts.
So it's interesting when you brought up the whole idea of like, okay, you graduate from high school, college, that whole piece, and then the job thing, right? So I grew up where my parents went to high school, then they both had to figure out, because they both didn't come from money, so they had to figure out a way to go to college, and they both knew they wanted to, right? But my dad, it wasn't like either one of them were like super athletes. That wasn't going to be the way, or like so stinking smart that you're just gonna get a full ride.
Right.
So my dad ended up going into the military and got the GI Bill, and he knew he wanted to be a teacher. My mom saw that her brothers got sports scholarships, and so she was just pretty much like, okay, well, I'm going to go to community college. They both went to community colleges, and figured out, okay, I just have to work and pay this, and that's how I'm going to do it. The reason I bring that up is because in my mind, that's what was normal, right? You graduate from college, or I'm sorry, from high school and go to college. So I never really thought about not going to college. And I've said this to people, I really thought you go to college and then you have a job, and that was just like a very easy thing.
Yeah.
That's what I really thought.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somewhere along that, maybe junior, but maybe not the senior year, realized, well, first of all, I knew really quickly, I don't know what I want to do. I find some classes interesting, but I didn't have like my dad, I want to be a teacher. I didn't have that. It was just like, okay, I'm going to college, and then somebody will give me a job and pay me, and I'll be just fine getting this house, right?
Right.
That didn't happen. So, yes, I went to college, I graduated, and it was just like, all right, luckily for me, I transitioned from my work-study job to that boss made sure I had a job, got a job for me at my college.
Okay.
So I say that to say that I don't think I really sat down and understood, like, what was success. I don't even think I am not necessarily goal-oriented, so like how you were speaking about yourself, I don't think I actually really, if somebody would have asked me, I don't know if I could have really answered that, because it was like, well, what's success? I guess you go to school, you get a job, and I don't know if that's even makes sense, but I was kind of like, I don't know. And now, if I jump to now, success to me is, it's seeing a sense of peace and a sense of connection. So for me, peace, now that I'm a married person and a mom, like, that my home is not, don't get it twisted, it's not peaceful every day, and it's like, we walk in and everybody's, not like that, but it's not a place full of conflict and just chaos. There's a certain kind of peace, and there's a really good system of support. I supporting my husband supporting me, both of us supporting our son, and we're, I guess, success in the sense of we are both able to maintain jobs and go on vacation, which we've talked about in a previous one, which was a big deal for me. So the money isn't rolling in, but it's also not like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do to pay the next bill? And So I would say now too, another piece of success is connections. You know me, I'm very big on um, my roles and my relationships with people. So connecting, I feel very successful, I guess you would say. Connecting with my husband, connecting with my friends, connecting with my son, like, this sounds, I don't know if it's coming across to you all, but I do think success for me really is through my relationships. Does that make sense? Because, you know, I struggle sometimes getting out this information.
No, I mean, I know that's who you are. You know, like, you are the connector between us, you know. But I have a question.
Sure.
So, for me, like, I get a job and I make money, and then I get a different job. So, like, back then, it was really clear when, in air quote, I was being successful. When success for you is tied to, like, your relationships, how do you know that you are doing a good job? Is it just...
No, that's a good question. I think... not that I'm a firm believer that the friends, you guys heard about this in the female friendship episode. I feel like I see that I'm doing a good job because of the connections. When I spend time with a person and just what I feel like, I walk away and watch them walk away. If you've ever heard of an energy vampire, I feel like I walk away re-energized after spending time with people. It re-energizes me. It lifts me up. We've laughed. We've had a good time. That might sound a little hokey, but I really value my time. And I think a lot of people would say that. And I'm very particular about who I want to spend time with. And I've had to learn that sometimes there were situations where I realized I thought either I could deal with this, or I thought this person was really, this was a successful situation, and it wasn't. And I realized I'm not walking away feeling, and I don't mean like every day it's like, oh, I feel, because we all go through situations, right? But that something positive is exchanged between me and this person, whether it's a friend, a family member, my husband. So...
No,
does that...
It does. And you just said something that was really helpful to me that I maybe have thought about, but not in the same way. So, because I am kind of like this box checker, I'm always trying to quantify something, right? Like, how do I quantify the success? And so, when I think about, like, what you just said, time is a really big part of that. Like, you can't get it back.
Nope.
And where you spend it shows... like, how you can, even more so than money. Like,
right.
You can spend money.
Yeah.
But we have 24 hours in a day.
That's all there is.
You know?
Can't...
So, where you spend your time shows what you value. And it makes me think about something, because when we were back at work, they were having lots of, they weren't having lots. They were doing happy hours, you know? And I had just joined this other team, and they were like, hey, we're having a happy hour. Are you coming? And I was like, no. And they're like shock and awe. Like, why? And I was like, I spend 8 hours with you guys. My kid gets maybe 4 or 5 waking hours. No.
Right.
Anything we want to be happy about, we can do it in the 8 hours that we're together. So I'm just thinking about that. So that's helpful to me in, like, thinking about, like, how I'm being successful is I can show that, like, I can quantify that with my time.
And I'm glad you shared that, because that makes me think, because our situations are different, with me being a part-time employee and I don't know.
Did you almost say a part-time mom?
Right, I was like a part-time stay-at-home mom. I was going to kind of clarify that more.
Yeah.
That it's like the opposite for me. So I don't feel guilty and I don't feel bad when I'm like, hey, honey, I'm about to go to this happy hour because this sister over here love a happy hour, okay? I've told y'all, I like to eat, I do like to drink, and I love to have conversation. Shocker, I know. So, because I do spend a significant time with my son, and I feel like, you know, you and I both talked about how important experiences and memories are. I do that a lot. So, it's easy for me to go, you know what? nail time, hair time. I want to kick it with my friends or go with my family. So yeah, time is okay.
Okay. What else?
So
Well,
well, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say sometimes though the challenges of the way that I kind of look at success. I do want to be honest about that and say, because you've been so helpful with this for me and we've done this together, because I'm not typically a goal-oriented or goal-setting person. And, if I bring something to Tara, a situation, or if we've talked about we want to improve something, I can get caught, I'm going to be honest, I can get caught in the talking of it instead of like, let's do something about it. And so Tara's been very helpful where we've sat down, whether it's around it's typically around personal goals. But I'm sure there's times where we might have put a box for professional, but specifically, you and I have written down like health goals or marriage goals or parenting goals. And that's really helpful. And I think there's really something to be said of, you don't necessarily have to do it with somebody else, but it was helpful because Tara pushed me, and not in a bad way, but it was like, okay, here's our paper. We're going to make this look real pretty and nice.
True.
Because Tara is very good at making things look beautiful and nice.
I do enjoy my craft.
You do. And that is not a strength of mine. So, and then not only did you make sure I sat down in my goals, but then you told me the importance, and my brother helped me with this too. You both were saying same thing, just in different ways, of posting that up in somewhere where you're going to literally see it every day to help you. And it was, I know it might sound silly, but I really never thought about things that way. Yeah. So I thank you, and I think that that's helpful for somebody like me who could maybe use some pushing and some help with goals, because we all have them. It's just maybe we don't, articulate or work towards it as much. Or maybe some of us, like me, kind of struggle with how do we navigate that.
That's funny. There was something that you just said that made me think of, like, my mom. You asked me, like, where did it start? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it made me think of this thing my mom used to say all the time that is stuck in my head, and I didn't almost just say it to you, but it made me think of that, and it's piss or get off the pot. Like, either you're going to do something or you're not. But you're not going to sit around and complain about it, right? Yeah. So, like, good. Either there are moves to be made, or you let those things die and try something different. True. I don't know what you said that made me think about that, but, like, when I think about, like, where success comes from or where it started, part of that would be from my mom and her piss or get off the pot.
Well, this is great because your stuff is triggering things for me to explain where maybe some of my goal, success or importance around relationships came from is my parents. And it's actually quite funny to me. Sometimes I've literally sat there and chuckled how my life in certain ways reflects my parents' lives. And it's really kind of funny because my parents worked, but I always felt like they did their thing. They put their hours in, right? But it wasn't their whole life. Mm-hmm. And I also knew it was very apparent to my brother and I, like, if we had something going on, my parents figured out a way to get there. And I'm not saying, there's very different situations, and I'm not saying that's, that's not always, people have no control sometimes, right? Because I do know that that my dad's job was very flexible, and he was able to like literally sometimes leave. Like, there was a situation where I called my dad crying. Back then I didn't cry a lot, and I was at my school, and I'm talking about that man hopped in that ride and was like, I was in middle school and was like, what's going on and why is my daughter crying? Yeah. And I know that that's not always an option for people. But, okay, so I felt like they did, yes, they worked and they paid the bills and they wanted us to have a vacation. And I just told you guys I wanted the same thing, and that same thing is happening in my life. I also felt like they saw the importance of communicating with us and having this a connection between their children and themselves, and then also my brother. I don't know if you can make this happen, but how close my brother and I are. So I think modeling that behavior, whether my parents intentionally did that or not, is interesting of why that's so important to me now. And being around, my mom said specifically for her, she worked at night or she worked from home a lot because she thought it was special or important. I guess it was probably the word she probably used, that when we came home from school that somebody was there, because she also thought like something could have happened in your day and that was somebody to process it with. And if anybody knows me, I'm all about processing. Right. And sometimes it's too much, right? You get over processed. No, but for real, right? But so I don't know, when you were sharing that about your mom, it just did make me think, I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Okay. So I want to ask, what's the takeaway? I have one, but what's yours?
Okay, we'll go with yours because mine hasn't quite come to my brain yet.
Oh, okay. So I am who I am, and I won't pretend to be anybody else. So when I think of like success, Stephen Covey, he wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and there is like a point where it's like begin with the end in mind. So when you think about the life that you want, start there and then work out from there. So that's my takeaway, is like we all have kind of like the life and the things that we have to do. But like think about where you want to end up, like if tomorrow was your last day, like what would you want it to look like? And then branch out from there and start working your way back to the step. What?
I know. I'm just curious. Have you done this? Has that been helpful to you? That's a really interesting way to think about it. And of course, I never have. So I'm just curious. Have you done this with your own life?
Well, I haven't done it with this new perspective, but that's kind of how I am. Like, I want to be at this point.
Okay.
What do I need to do to get there?
Okay. Yes. Okay. I could totally see that with you. Yeah. Okay. 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 Mine's okay. I didn't add a piece that I probably should before the takeaway to explain, because the takeaway for me is because I for so long was the fish. Everybody's going upstream and I'm going downstream. I shouldn't say everybody, but I felt like I didn't quite fit into this box of like success and finding a job and working my way up. I saw people, and let me be clear, I really respect that, because that's one thing I've said to Tara a lot, and a lot of my other friends, like, I respect the steps and watching you all do it, because you really have goals, and you're like, this is how I knock them out. I think that's very cool, and I feel like I didn't ever feel like I've connected to that piece in my life. So I want to encourage people that if that box doesn't quite work for you, 1, there's nothing wrong with you, but 2, that's okay, because I think I'm not a career woman, maybe. I'm a job person, and I don't know if that makes sense, even though I have been a nanny, so I guess you could say I'm
you have a
career in nannying, but just to remind people that sometimes, we start doing things, or we get, I don't know, society says certain things and, you get kind of caught up in that. Or maybe even grew up in a certain way where everybody was, like, well, we do this in this family. And realizing maybe you don't quite fit in that way. And I just want to remind people there's nothing wrong with you. But finding, things that work for you. And like what you did say, though, Tara, is a good point about just the life that you want. And then what can I do to get to that life I want? Yeah. So I do kind of jump on yours, too.
Yeah. I mean, we always say it as our takeaway is there's no one way.
Right.
And not to link or connect yours to someone else's, because totally different people, totally different experiences and just really owning like your life and process, you know, and not letting other people like put their judgments or ideas into your head, you know, like I don't know.
Yeah, that, the negative piece, but the positive piece, because I see it for how it's helped me with you, is, but also learning, have people around you who do things differently, because it really, you've taught me a lot and helped me look at it like, okay, I can do these goals around something else, you know, I can set these goals around something else, so, you know, that's what we got.
All right, friends. Thank you for joining us again. We look forward to talking to you. We hope you leave some comments in our box. Is there a box? I am not technically inclined, guys.
Just leave us some comments. Let us know if you got something else. If there's other questions. If there's some other topics you'd like us to discuss. We'd love to hear them. Until next time.